listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teacher Talking Terror podcast, where Mike
and Courtney
are here to cover another movie. It's what it is. It's a movie. It's not scary. It is horror, I guess. But it is here based on recommendations, not request is more the word. It's here on a request. It wasn't really recommended to us, but we had a YouTube comment on our Night of the Living Dead episode asking if we would cover the Omega Man because the commenter had watched it a lot as a kid with his dad, and it's like it fills a niche. But we're here to watch the Omega Man and cover that today. Omega Man, based on the Richard Matheson novel I Am Legend. This one's starring Charlton Heston. I'm gonna go on a limb and say I've seen more Charlton Heston movies than you have.
Yeah.
I'm just not a Charlton Heston fan. Maybe I need to see more, but he's a very famous and very accomplished actor. He's just never really done it for me. Just never has. So, oh well. But we are here to cover the Omega Man, the second of three film adaptations of the I Am Legend novel. The first being an extremely campy Vincent Price movie, Last Man on Earth. This being the second, and Will Smith's I Am Legend, probably easily being the most horror. I don't want to call it horrific because it's not scary, but based in horror elements. This one was here. Yeah, it's here. If you're not familiar with the story of I Am Legend, this case takes place in like 1977 with our main character, Robert Neville, who believes he is the only survivor of a
biological war.
Yeah. Now, next week, regardless of what we watch, we have to break this streak. This is literally our fourth straight movie where some sort of governmental biological chemical has caused havoc.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, The Crazies last week, and now the Omega Man.
It's like, is this a sign? Like,
it's four straight weeks of biological warfare. Oh yeah, we got to break the streak for next week. For sure.
Maybe all the haze in the air is not from the Canadian
That's true.
wildfires. Maybe this is a sign that like we're being poisoned.
Yeah, it's Canadian biological warfare. They're just doing it really nicely, very politely. These Canadians. But yeah, so yeah, there's been this biological warfare, and it has wiped out virtually everyone. We'll call it everyone.
Yeah.
Because right now we're at the point of view of Mr. Neville, who is an army colonel and also a scientist of medicine, I guess.
Yeah. He's a man of all trades.
He could do well. You have to in the apocalypse like this. You got to be able to do it all. But he's been developing a vaccine that I don't know how he sensed the plague was coming, but anyway, he injects himself with this vaccine, and voila, he's immune. Fast forward 2 years to 1977, where he believes he's the only survivor, the only immune. Yeah, let me rephrase that: the only survivor that is immune to the plague, because there is, and this is where each adaptation of the novel shifts a little bit. There is a group of survivors, but they are plague victims who didn't die. And they have really, and this is very, this movie came out in 71. So we're looking at a late 60s, early 70s, like counterculture kind of thing, where really I believe the message our director is trying to put through is we shouldn't be overly materialistic,
Okay.
because the family that they call themselves the
Yeah.
black cloaked albino plague survivors, they are like anti-establishment, they are anti-materialism, anti-electricity, anti-computers, and whereas Robert Neville is, of course, driving a car and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I will say though that as goofy as this movie is, these first like 20 minutes or so are pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy the first 20 minutes as, Neville's driving around Los Angeles, which is just completely empty. Like, I always get a really, like, how do I want to phrase it? Like, an appreciation for filmmakers where they can figure out ways to just like shut things down.
Yeah.
Like how did you get Los Angeles to be empty?
Because for any of you listening, because I know you've been to LA, right?
Yeah.
And I've been to LA. Like it's sardines all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's 110 degrees or cold. Like it's sardines all the time, I feel like.
Now, to be fair, this is downtown LA,
Yeah.
which LA is a very like Los Angeles is an extremely sprawling city with really a pretty small, like, downtown size skyscraper-ish portion.
Yeah.
Because of the earthquake fault lines, they built Los Angeles short and wide as opposed to tall, like New York or Chicago. And so LA is massive, but this takes place in like the downtown big areas, which really are not. It's more like business district type.
Yeah.
But this first 20 minutes where Robert's, I keep calling him Rob. We'll call him Neville because I don't know him. I probably shouldn't refer to him on a first name basis. Where Neville is borderline, not insane, but just 2 years of being alone.
Yeah.
Have obviously
He
got
is.
to him. He
Yeah.
talks to himself constantly. He basically goes out about his day and does whatever he wants to do during the day, but he needs to make sure he's back home by dark because that's when they come out. That's when the family comes out. And he goes and sees a movie, he goes and sees Woodstock for probably the 100th time.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned earlier, he's kind of a do-it-all kind of guy. Well, he's like carrying gasoline around to start the generators, to turn on, like he said. But knowing that it's been 2 years, you get the vibe that, like, yeah, he probably has figured out how this works.
Uh-huh.
So he's watching Woodstock for whatever time. I mean, he's like saying the words as they're saying the words. Like, that's how many times we've seen this.
I like how he walks up to it. He's like, "Oh, it's still up 2 years later.
Yeah.
Like it's still going. Like, yeah, bud, who's gonna change it?"
Right. Well, and it's like, dude, I know that's not the only theater in LA.
Exactly.
Go to another theater, find their film, and bring it back to, like, even if this is the only theater you want to go to, go find another film. It's not the only movie showing in Los Angeles. But yeah, he comes out of the theater kind of late. It's like, it's not dusk yet, but the sun is starting to go down. And then, like, all the telephones start ringing. Which they're all in his mind, and he knows they're all in his mind. And so he's racing across LA to get back home. And it was pretty cool because he pulls into the driveway and it's dark. And then these two hooded figures from a balcony, like, dump gasoline onto his car, drop a flame, like, they start attacking him outside.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, the first 20 minutes of this movie were really, like, interesting and exciting. He fights them off because he knows martial arts, like whatever. Um, and basically, he gets himself home. You know, he's got an armory of. He's probably got what 15 versions of that machine gun.
Yeah. Oh,
Endless bullets. He can only find
endless.
one movie in L.A., but he can find as much ammunition as he needs. Um, and so yeah, he lives in like the penthouse of this apartment complex, and basically imprisons himself in his own home during the night.
With his
Wow.
like statue that has become his friend.
Yeah, he's got like this bronze statue he plays chess or
Yeah.
checkers with or chess with or whatever. Meanwhile, like the family outside, they just like Neville like it's like these guys were creepy looking.
They were like the way that they're all just like albino, and it's
Uh-huh.
not just like everything is white. I
Right.
mean, hair,
Yeah.
their eyes, everything is
Yeah.
just pure powdery white.
Hmm. And so then that's kind of where they are. Now in the original book, this plague turned them all into vampires.
Okay.
Um, and even in the Will Smith version, they're kind of vampiric in a way, which is really their explanation for why they don't go out during the day
See,
because
and
they're
I don't
vampires.
remember a lot from the Will Smith.
Right.
Like, I remember he had a dog, and his dog died,
Yeah.
and that was so sad.
Yeah, it
And
was. That was easily the
and
saddest part of the movie.
that's like the main part I remember from it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and really the part I've seen it a couple of different times, but the part I remember most is how bad the CGI was on the monsters in that one. Now, this one obviously 1971 pre CGI. There I think the family would have been scarier if we didn't see them so much.
yes.
And that's really for me where the movie starts falling apart. The storyline of this is pretty simple. Neville thinks he's by himself, and he goes out and basically tries to kill as many of the family members as he can. Um, and they're trying to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get him out of his apartment. And when they're not hunting him down, they're trying to destroy any technology left, anything about
Yeah.
science left. Like that they can't stand him. I mean, it really is. It's a difference of class. You can almost make this somewhat of I don't want not a racist or like a racial biased movie, but more like cultural, of like first world, third world kind of thing.
Yeah.
The family wants to go back to just simplicity.
Mm-hmm. And because
And
they're blaming like all of technology, like that's what made this war. That's why
right,
we're like this. So
right,
it's like, let's go back to the better days.
yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Neville doesn't really ever have anything to fear. Like he goes out during the day, he talks to himself. Despite the fact how many times he goes clothes shopping,
I know.
he never has a shirt on.
No.
Like Charlton Heston refuses to wear a shirt. Like you can film me in any clothing store you want, but I'm not wearing clothes.
They slow him down.
Yeah, he spends an insane amount of time topless in this movie. And I mean, and he's a handsome guy, and I know that's what they're building it off of. Is he's kind of defined, and he's got his muscle tone, and he's
Yeah.
very popular actor in this era.
It's something about his teeth that get
Yeah,
me.
he's just got a very big mouth.
And I like big mouths, but his teeth just look rotted. And
Mhm.
sometimes like you just physically cannot control that.
Right.
Like I get it. But yeah, he wouldn't be a bad looking guy if his mouth were a little bit nicer.
I feel like I don't know. Like when he just has that smile and look in his eye, like that combo makes it almost look like he's got other things in mind.
Yeah.
Like he's just, it just comes off as if I could get you alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and he's not listening to the show, so I really don't.
No.
And so, there's this cat and mouse back and forth between Neville and the family. He doesn't know where they're staying, so therefore he can't find them and kill them while they sleep. but they know where he's staying. But because of all of his technology, they can't get to him.
Right.
One day he is at surprise, a clothing store.
Yeah.
And he spots a woman. Like she happens to be there at the same time. She is pretending to be a mannequin. Not a very good job pretending to be a mannequin. But she takes off. And so he's chasing her outside. And he eventually I must have hallucinated that. Because she just kind of,
disappeared kind of. Yeah.
And so he kind of goes on this mission of, I'm hallucinating. I got to kill the family. And he's got to get back to like his work, like his work. This movie tries so hard, and I was entertained because I think my willingness to absorb, you'll get there maybe, as just an overall film fan, like I'm like, okay, this movie's not scary, it's kind of hokey, but let's go ahead and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like that just because like I'm easily entertained,
right?
And so I'm like, okay, like this to me is like it's just easy. It's it's just here, it's on, I'll watch it.
Right, and that's the approach I took as well. Yeah. After that first 20 minutes, and then when I started showing the family all the time, I was like, this is a drama now.
Yes.
Like at the beginning, it felt like there's some intensity to this. And then he met her, and then they captured him. That's where we're at now. Yes. They captured him and put him on trial.
Yeah, they're now in court.
And it's like, we meet officially the family's leader, Matthias.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because we saw him very early in the movie. Mm-hmm. Did you recognize him?
No, I didn't. But he was the anchorman or whatever.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what I meant. It's like,
I thought you were saying like from another movie. I'm like, no. I'm not good at that.
No, I know you're not. But no, like pre-plague, he was the anchorman on TV. So they sentence him to death. They're going to burn him at the stake at Dodger Stadium because we're in LA. And Lisa, who turns out she's the woman from before, from the clothing store, she and another guy, Dutch, rescue him. And then we've got what seems to be like a 45-minute motorcycle chase scene in Dodger Stadium, where they just drive their motorcycle. It's like, all right, when we call action, Charlton Heston's stunt double, who looks nothing like Charlton Heston, we're going to put you on the motorcycle and you just drive, and then everybody in cloaks just jump out of the way. Like for 45, no, it's not 45 minutes, but it was long.
Yeah.
Turns out Lisa and Dutch there's like a full group of survivors.
Yeah, there's a whole community of them. Yeah. But they're all young.
Yeah, like nobody makes it past 30.
Yeah.
Because they all get sick, But because they're so young, they all have some sort of like resistance to the disease. Like, because basically what it boils down to is everybody has the disease, and it's just a matter of time before it overtakes you.
Yeah.
And so Neville's like, like, I'm immune.
Yeah.
Dutch, thankfully, is like, well, I'm a former medical student, so I can have these conversations with you and they'll make sense. Mm-hmm. So Neville's like, I developed a vaccine. Let me go get the vaccine because I'm immune. So if I can take some of my blood and recreate the vaccine, we all can be fine. Which I'm glad they kind of mentioned that, because once Lisa and Dutch took Neville back to this community of survivors, like with children, there was absolutely no reason for him to go back to his apartment.
No,
like because
leave from where you're at. Go.
The family doesn't come out that far.
No,
and there was just no reason at all. But they did go the whole everything I need is back in my apartment. Richie, who is Lisa's brother, he's starting to succumb to the disease. Light is getting very irritating to him. Excuse me. I'm bored talking about it.
Usually it's me yawning.
I know. So it's like, Richie's, his eyes have changed. Like, he's going to become a family member. So they head back into the city. This movie. They head back into the city to get the supplies to make the vaccine, but not before we get a romantic evening.
Yes.
It's like,
Lisa Neville.
It's like, come on. I mean, Lisa, she's a beautiful woman, don't get me wrong.
She is.
But she's also lived in this community. There's people there.
But he's been by himself for 2 years.
I understand that, but it's like, if she needed to get with somebody, Dutch is right there.
Yeah. Well, maybe Dutch is boring. Like,
maybe this is a thank you for helping us out.
Yes, because she has. Yeah, and Neville's like totally infatuated with her, like. But granted, he's been alone for 2 years.
Yeah,
so,
it's the first living woman he's seen.
I'd be infatuated too, probably.
Yeah, and which is, I'm glad that this was an interracial relationship, because I think it just elevates the desperation, and I don't mean that in a cultural way, but just 1971.
I was gonna say, based off when the movie was made.
Yeah, that's a really strong statement to make, and I think it's being made in like, hey, look, she's like literally the last woman on earth.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston, as he was the president of the NRA for a very long time. Charlton Heston is an extremely staunch Republican, to where you just look at this and you're like, good for you, Chuck. Because this is probably not something you were comfortable with as you got older.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, the timing was off. It's like, my brother, he's got the disease. We need to fix him. Well, first,
let's have a date night.
Yeah. Well, it just so happens to be the wrong night to do this, because Neville was so excited to be with a woman that he forgot to refuel the generator. The lights go out, so he has to go downstairs to refuel the generator at the same time that the family happens to attack Neville's place.
Yeah.
Matthias's like right-hand man, brother Zachary, so yeah, it's kind of a tense scene here, but you're not really worried about anybody. I wasn't anyway. No. Neville goes downstairs, Lisa's upstairs. Neville comes back upstairs to find Zachary up there with, sneaking up on Lisa. Of course, he pulls a gun. Lisa does the whole, no, Robert, don't. And shoots Zachary dead. He falls off the balcony. It fell on a spear. Kind of a graphic scene for this movie. So it's like, just a minor scare. They leave the city. They go live in the wilderness. They're just like, the family, we're going to leave them to die.
Yeah.
Neville cures Richie. Good for Richie.
Yeah, him and Richie kind of have a little, like, dispute of, like, Richie's like, well, if you could heal me, then you could heal them. And Neville's like, no, like, they're animals. Like, we're not.
I liked that dynamic of Richie being like, hey, but of course Neville's got such hatred. Like, nope, they're too far gone. You're right. Like, they're animals.
Yeah.
Nope.
And so, meanwhile, like, Lisa's going shopping for some things. Richie goes to talk to the family, and Neville heads out. And then it kind of flashes forward to, I feel like, kind of the last act or whatever.
We're in the last act here.
Where like the family has now killed Richie because
and Neville wasn't wrong. I don't think
Right.
he did. I don't think he did a good job explaining it to Richie. Like
Right.
Richie was admirable in his approach. Like you cured me, you can cure them. But like Neville left. I mean, he just kept bashing them and insulting them. Well,
Yeah.
what he really needed to explain to Richie was they don't want to be saved.
Right. Like
Like,
this is how they want to be now. And like
yeah,
they don't want any modern
right.
technology or
They don't
science.
want medicine.
They're not going to take the serum.
Yeah, but there's just too much hate. Which
Yeah.
again, I get where Neville's coming from. They've been trying to kill him for 2 years.
Hmm.
That's a Hatfield McCoy.
Yeah.
That's never going to resolve itself.
No.
But yeah, you're right. They kill Richie.
And they're out walking, like doing their little cult
Parade.
chant type. Yeah. And we see that Lisa has now turned.
Yeah, I saw that coming. I can't
Yeah.
say that I saw it coming really early, but when it's now nighttime and she's still walking around
Yeah.
with her hair covered in a scarf and big giant sunglasses on,
Hmm.
as soon as she peeled them off, I'm like, she's turned. Like,
Well, and somebody, like, I feel like she kind of took the place in like I Am Legend of the dog.
yeah,
Like, like this was Neville's, I mean, like,
right.
lover,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
So, yeah, of course it fits that she has to go be part
Right.
of the family.
Yeah. And they did explain earlier that, the speed of the plague is different.
Yes.
Like with Richie, it was kind of slow, but they even commented, like, for some people, it happens really quickly. And
Yeah,
so
in,
obviously
like,
with
10
Lisa, it did,
minutes.
because
Yeah.
she went shopping and then like 20 minutes later, she's an albino.
Yeah. So she heads off to be with the family. And this is where Neville is like, he comes home, returns home, and he's like, Lisa, like, about Richie. And she's just like, yeah, I know, like, Matthias told me. And he's pretty much ambushed
Oh, yeah.
by all of the family in his apartment.
Yeah. Which, I mean, good for them. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
one of these two were going to
Yeah.
win,
Yes.
Yeah, so he decides he's going to take Lisa because he knows he's got a vaccine. He knows he can cure her.
Mhm.
So he's going to take her and go save himself, save
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
Once they're
so
out. Yeah,
10
once they're-
minutes. 10
yeah.
minutes until sunrise.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's important. Now,
Yeah.
at no point have we discovered that these people like engulf in flames or anything.
No.
They just don't like the bright light.
Yeah.
But we got 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So he's down at street level with Lisa. Matthias and the family are upstairs. He pulls a gun, and for the first time in this movie, it
Yeah,
fills
this
with
part
fire.
annoyed me because
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously, like all the times that he has shot this gun, just like,
Yeah.
like it jams up now when he
Right.
really truly needs it. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
Matthias picks up the spear that Brother Zachary had left on the balcony perfectly, like a Olympic javelin thrower.
Yeah, like there's no breeze or anything to
No.
cut this.
No, he just. This is a. No, I shouldn't be so judgmental. This is a former television anchorman. He just picks
Yeah.
it up and chucks it like,
Yeah.
this is what I do now.
You must get superpowers or
yeah,
something
I throw this.
with the disease.
Gets him right in the chest. Dutch and the rest of the crew, the survivors, they show up late. Now, this could have been a half hour later for all
Yeah.
we know. The sun's up. It's blazing hot. They show up. They see Neville dying in a fountain. Like, he had, like, fallen into a fountain.
Yeah.
He does hand Dutch the final flask of the serum. And then he dies. Lisa's still there because she's cloaked.
Yeah.
Because the family carries extra cloaks.
Yep. Just join us.
Right, come on in. So Dutch takes Lisa, and they go away, then leave the city forever. Not before we get probably the most aggravating shot of this movie, as the camera pans back, and Charlton Heston is laying in an exact Jesus pose right there in the fountain. It's like, come on. Just, there's heavy-handed, and then there's crap like this.
Yeah.
Now, one issue I have with this movie is I've not read the book, but I know enough about the storyline. The reason why, the reason why the book is called I Am Legend is, and they never explicitly state it here, nor do they do it in the Will Smith version, is in this in this environment, this post-plague apocalyptic environment, really Robert Neville's the bad guy. And that's how it's played up in the novel as well. And they don't mention it here at all because we've got Charlton Heston as our star. He's got to be the good guy. But when you look at it, Neville's the one doing all the killing.
Yeah.
And so really this I Am Legend, the storyline is almost it's almost the boogeyman story told from the point of view of the boogeyman.
Okay.
If you look at because again, in the original they were vampire type.
Yeah.
But but if you look at the family, Neville is the boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's trying to get them, he's trying to kill them, he's trying to find where they sleep. So I mean, it's like they're afraid of him.
Yeah.
But the way that they play this is like they put us in his position to be almost appreciative. And the same thing goes for I Am Legend too with Will Smith. It's like the group of monsters in that, like, they have relationships, they have, like, they've bonded and they're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they've got this gun-toting, car-driving savior, but it's like they don't need saved. And even here with Matthias, they're content in their family. What they're doing is what they want to do. It's Neville that is trying to blow everything up because they're different.
Yeah.
He wants to live the way he used to be, but it's like he's the one that's immune. And so he's the holdout. And so it's a really interesting take if you look at the movie from that perspective. It's like we're watching it as if we're supposed to side with Neville, but in reality, he's the one attacking them. Yes, they attack him at the beginning, and yes, they come after him all the time, but that's more in retaliation for what he is. He's the bad guy. And so it really bothers me when they leave the final pose as him in like the Jesus pose, as like, that's right, folks, Charlton Heston saved humanity. Like, whatever. So that's the Omega Man from 1971. Yep.
I have seen worse. I mean,
it is not the worst movie.
No, like it moves right along.
Yeah, so. I will give the movie credit. It clips right along. I really like the design of the family. I like that, like, just albino look to them.
Yeah. And it's not even like they weren't like white. They were like powder.
Yeah, like ashy.
Yes. Like they weren't like albino white. Like they were like super white.
Yeah. And I like that they did that because they very easily could have just white-faced the black actors and left, but no, they went all out. Like
they did.
And so I'm respectful that they did that. Race was not an issue here. Like,
no.
There was not one mention of Lisa being black or I mean, as a viewer, we obviously could tell that Brother Zachary was a black man, but it didn't matter.
No.
And so I really like that because this, while made in 71 and set in 77, it's not futuristic.
No.
Like, it still took place in the 70s. So yeah, there are a lot of things I liked about this movie. But it just, to be like, oh, we're going to watch another scary movie. We didn't. Like, not even close. But it definitely does fall into, it's probably more of an action film than it is a horror film.
Yeah,
You know,
it makes
but
me want to watch I Am Legend again,
yeah,
though,
but
and that's
the,
one of Casey's favorites. So
it is a good one. But the premise of the movie is still horrific.
yeah,
And that's kind of like the 70s did a lot of that. Charlton Heston, a couple years later, was in a science fiction movie called Soylent Green. And again, this movie's 50 years old, so not a big deal. Well, but it takes place in 2022, and there is this worldwide shortage of food and housing.
okay,
And a company called Soylent Green. They have basically invented, right? Poor people are drinking like water from like water fountains, and they eat these wafers. There's Soylent Red, Soylent Yellow, and then the best of them, Soylent Green. Well, the big synopsis at the end, Charlton Heston plays he plays a detective, and what they find out is, upon investigating, is that Soylent Green is people.
okay,
Like they are harvesting, like they're killing people, harvesting them into food, and then feeding that back to the poor. And so that's kind of the big Soylent Green is people. Like, again, absolutely horrific.
yeah,
But it's not a horror film. It's science fiction. And so it's, there's a lot of movies in the 70s that kind of play in there. Same with, even in I think it was the 60s, with Charlton Heston. He was really big in the Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah, which was late 60s, Planet of the Apes.
But I've only seen the remakes of those, I think.
Right. But again, same kind of premise
Yeah.
of like, it's an absolutely horrific premise, but it's not a scary movie.
Right.
And this one isn't either. So what do you want to give it as a grade then?
I like it moved along quickly. It had enough of the little suspenseful, like you had mentioned when we were talking, when he was refueling up the generator, like the music going along, and it's like he's moving quickly, brothers walking or climbing up the wall. I'm gonna give it a B-, just because I didn't dislike it. Like, it's not what I would go to for a quote unquote scary movie,
Right.
but it did. It wasn't terrible. Like, it was an easy watch.
I'm okay. I figured we'd come in today and be like, that movie was awful. I really did. I was expecting, because one, it's old,
Yeah.
Two, it's just not scary. Like, I really figured you'd come in and be like, yep, that was terrible.
I surprised, yeah.
You did. It's one of the oldest movies we've covered yet.
Yeah.
So I really was like, oh, she's gonna hate this, especially after I watched it and I knew you hadn't. I was like, oh man. I'm gonna give it a C.
Okay.
It was fine. Like, once I shifted my, not expectation, but once I shifted my experience from like, I haven't seen this movie, I've heard of it, I know the story, I'm just gonna watch it. That first 20 minutes was great. I really liked that. But like I mentioned earlier, the more they showed the family, the more it shifted from horror to more drama action.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a survival movie. It was more of a, we've got to get the vaccine, and it's like it shifted. Last week's movie, in some way, the Crazies, in some ways very similar story. Only that movie was a lot scarier. Like, they played it up for horror. This one was just Neville, and that was about as scary as it got. But that's all right. Like, I'd give it a C. Like I said, not the worst movie I've seen, not the best movie I've seen. Just fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
It was just there. Like,
I'm glad I watched it, and now I can say I've seen the Omega Man.
Yes.
Any takeaways? We got to get our teacher brains back on.
I know. No.
No?
Not really. Makes me kind of wonder, like, should I not go outside with all of this?
Well, all the smoke. I guess one takeaway I'll take, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, even though this movie takes place in like a post-apocalyptic environment, differences don't matter.
True.
You know, don't let race and culture be a difference maker now, because it doesn't matter. Like, we saw Neville and Lisa have a romantic relationship, and yes, he was an older white man and she was a younger than him, black lady, and the movie didn't pay any attention to it whatsoever, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, it's going to matter more to other people than it does to you, and just be true to yourself. I'm not saying, that you have to like a certain thing or accept a certain thing, but if you don't, just keep it in your head.
Yeah.
Because it's okay. Like, we just had a talk. We went, this past weekend was my son's birthday, and so we were over at the mall because he got some birthday money and he wanted to buy a basketball jersey. And we happened to go across Build-A-Bear, and we thought, he's never, like, my daughter's made several Build-A-Bears. He's never made one. And with it being his birthday, we know that they have a pay your age feature, to where if it's your birthday, they have a specific birthday bear, but you just pay however old you are.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so it really benefits more for like 2 and 3 year olds, of course.
Yeah.
But he saved $5. But we let Ella get, there was a frog she had her eye on. Well, with her birthday being Christmas Eve, she can never go on her birthday.
Yeah.
And so we're like, let's go ahead and get her one, just because we're here. And so she got a cute little frog, and she bought a pair of rainbow shorts and a shirt for it that says "Love is Love." Now, Ella is extremely, like, she loves rainbows, loves the rainbow pattern, and at the same time, like, isn't like old enough to like think about relationships yet.
Yeah.
Like, she's aware of them. But so she was asking, my wife, she's like, well, what does that mean? And she just told her, she's like, sometimes boys like boys and girls like girls and boys like girls and girls like boys. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, just whatever, because everybody deserves to be happy and just whatever. And so it was a nice little, like, grown up conversation. And at the same time, it's like, and I hope that that's how my kids continue to perceive it, as like, who cares, and so the same thing with this movie, with this lesson, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. And so anymore, I feel like we as a people take several steps forward in acceptance, while some people continue taking steps backwards.
Oh yeah.
And so I was glad to see, for a movie that's 52 years old, that they put Charlton Heston and what was her name, Rosalind Cash, and it's like, hey, you guys just have a relationship, and we're not going to pay any attention to your color, just go do it. So and another nice little thing is, you saw way more topless Charlton Heston than you did topless Rosalind Cash. So
I know the roles were like reversed here.
I was almost, like, honestly, I was bummed out when they had her topless. I was, just because it's like the movie didn't need it.
Yeah.
It did nothing to move the plot forward. We're not stupid. We saw where this is going. Mm-hmm. But I felt like, our director's like, well, go ahead and take your top off. I just...
Scary movie, go ahead.
Yeah, because she wasn't even, like, facing the camera. It was still, like, in shadow. And I'm like, it was completely useless. I was kind of bummed. Like, we don't need... Besides, it's like, there's enough Charlton Heston chest hair in this movie, to make a rug out of. Like, we don't... But whatever. I can't go back 52 years and change their mind. So, with that being this week's movie, I don't think our plan for next week, especially with the kids being at camp this week, because we talked about watching Scream 4.
Yes.
But Ella's going to be at camp all week. So I don't think we're going to have a chance to watch Scream 4 prior to the weekend. I don't know what your plans for the rest of the week are, but I don't have kids all week long.
Yeah, I don't either, I guess.
So
Ever.
if you want, we can go ahead and if you have one in mind, or we can
I
shuffle.
do.
You do?
I came across another TikTok, okay?
Okay, perfect.
And I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, but this girl, I just pulled it up.
Uh
She
huh.
saved it because she said that it was just like very creepy to her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have another
What are
one.
we watching?
Let me go to the. It's called Talk to Me.
Talk to me. Okay.
Oh wait, maybe it's the one coming out. I mean the film looked kind of creepy, or like the label.
All right.
Talk
Yeah, I
to
got a
Me.
hand coming out. It came out last year.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Well, actually, they made it last year. It releases July 28th.
Okay. I was like, it says only in theaters July 28th. So,
Yeah.
all right. That's out of the loop then for right now.
Sorry.
We'll have to wait till after Fair Week, I
I
guess.
guess so.
But I do want to put that on the list
Yes,
because
for
the way
sure.
she
Yep, keep
explained it
that.
looked good.
We will watch that for sure.
I
Okay,
don't have
now
any
that I'm
others
kind of
though.
watching the trailer a little bit, yeah, I've seen stuff on this and I've heard good things about it.
Okay.
Um, idea. We are now how many episodes in? We're closing in on a year's worth of episodes,
Yeah.
and we've not covered a single vampire movie yet.
No, we have not.
So do you want to break the ice and just get a
Let's
vampire
do
movie
it.
in?
Yeah.
All right, let me find one that I want to watch with you. Like, there's there's a lot of good ones, but I want it to be like a vampire movie I think you'll like.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm scrolling. I know you would like that one because it fits right in that wheelhouse of like the crazies, but yeah, I think we're gonna go to the '80s on this one.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the '80s. I think we should watch The Lost Boys.
Okay.
I think we're gonna watch The Lost Boys for next week. That will be your first vampire movie.
Yeah, because seriously, the only vampire movies I've seen are Twilight. So
Yeah, I Am
is
Legend
is
technically
Corey
qualified.
Feldman
Yep.
a vampire in that? Because
No,
no, because he so looks like a vampire
he's
in
not.
this picture.
Corey Feldman is not a vampire in this movie. You got Corey Haim, Corey Feldman,
Kiefer
Jason
Sutherland, what is he in?
Kiefer Sutherland. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in 24, the TV show. He was in
Designated Survivor. That's what I've seen him in.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that one.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, so yeah, I think we're going to introduce you to the world of vampires with a lot of people. This is their favorite vampire movie.
Okay.
A lot of people. It's not my favorite vampire movie because I'm 43 years old and I don't really rank my favorites. But it is a fun one. Like, I really like this movie.
Okay.
And it's 80s, which means practical effects. So everything in this movie, none of it's CGI, which is still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we will introduce you to the world of vampires with The Lost Boys.
Okay.
The Lost Boys. But yeah, we could do vampire movies all day long because there's a lot of good ones. But we're going to watch The Lost Boys. I want to make sure I have it. Of course I have it. Yep. The one that I was hesitant about recommending, which I definitely think you should watch, I just don't think it should be your first vampire movie, is a 2007 movie called 30 Days of Night, based on a graphic novel. This movie, the premise of this movie is really sweet. You've got a cop and his wife up in an Alaskan town where it's one of those towns where, like, on a certain date, like, the sun doesn't rise for another 30 days, which happens. Like, that's the thing. Well, a lot of people leave the town, but enough people stay back to keep it alive. Well, there's this pack of vampires that basically travel along waiting for this like 30-day eclipse. And when vampires can only come out at night, what do you do in a town where it's night for an entire month?
Yeah.
And so it's a really good movie in that they can't get away. Like, it's almost reverse of like the humans have to hide all the time because the vampires are out after them. But we're gonna watch The Lost Boys. Oh, I might even watch that this afternoon. So if you're up for getting that knocked out this week while my kids are at camp, I'm all for it because it'll give me something to do. So, well, do you have anything before we sign off?
Nope. Just if you are a teacher, enjoy. I feel like summer's coming in so quickly. Like
we got less than a month left.
I know, and I'm one of those that I'm like, all right, June is enough for me. Like, let's get back to school in July, just because I get bored. I don't have kids,
right?
So it's just like
it's been a very busy summer thus far. But now my son's birthday's done, I think it'll slow down. So
yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, we can film whenever we want, and then it's like, no, I got something this day and this hour of this day,
right?
So yeah, but
no, I'm pretty wide open from here on. So I know we talked like oh, summer's gonna hit, we're gonna crank out so many episodes, and now it's like, hey, it's been 2 weeks, guys. Sorry, but
it's been so busy.
I know my plans are all but done now. I've been on vacation. I've got my birthdays out of the way, so here we go. All right. Well, if you don't have anything more than that, I'm going to say the same thing. Enjoy what's left of your summer, folks. And if you are a 9-to-5er, hopefully you can put in an episode on your way to or from work, because that's what we're here for. We're here for you. So for another episode of Digication, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.